Okay, so next is the financial justification. It's hard to quantify how much a lost customer would cost the company, but using the data collected from the accounting department, I was able to calculate some rough figures based on averages. A single Avgas customer will, on average, spend $185 per trip. If the FBO was to cause a dissatisfaction somehow, there is always a possibility they lose the customer or that they simply don't visit as frequently, which is quite a bit of a lost cause. For jets, this is somewhat a different story. A jet typically doesn't have the same discretion that a 100 low-lead customer has, basically because trips are for business, which means that they have to go into the airport or FBO regardless of if they have a good relationship with them or not, because it's what the customer wants. Even still, the average jet brings in $1,300 in jet sales per trip, so it's important to keep them happy. So another dimension to look at was the wasted movement. The aspect of this is that the FBO would have to scramble every time fuel or other services aren't ready, meaning that instead of using and positioning them prior, they have to go around and scramble and make sure that everything is working properly, which means that they have to make extra trips back and forth. This can cause extra movement by the line service technicians. For the justification, I looked at simply the movement between the FBO office area where all the line technicians hang out and the fuel trucks, which by FAA mandate has to be 100 feet away from a building. So given the number of uplifts and distances from the FBO, the company will pay nearly $2,000 a year in walking alone back and forth. And that's just to the jet trucks. That's not even to the 100 low-lead calls or anything like that. So finally, on a more humorous note, during one of the discussions with one of the pilots, waiting was brought up into the conversation. The general consensus is that pilots understand that they're going to have to wait for services. In some of the high-impact FBOs, there is going to be a wait. You know, you go into San Francisco, there's probably 5 or 6 Gulfstreams waiting for having one GPU. You're going to have to get used to waiting, which is why they always schedule them for about an hour earlier than their departure. But when a pilot brought up the fact that he knew the FBO was busy, but he still saw line techs walking slowly or standing around, he would go out of his way to make their lives miserable, basically parking a plane in the most ridiculous spot he could possibly find. Thankfully, this pilot is on the outlier in terms of pilot behavior, but the larger point should be noted. If it's busy, don't look like there's nothing to do. This plays into the psychology of waiting that people understand fairness. They're willing to wait their turn, but if they're waiting and they see people who are supposed to be servicing an aircraft that are in front of them, standing around and laughing, they will not be happy. Okay, so that's my project. Basically, the application was well received. The next steps for it is that I really need to integrate it into another existing application. But, you know, barring being further built into another application that's already out there, it was very well received. So I'm happy with it. Okay, that's my project. Thanks for listening.